Diana Carter, in the silence that spoke louder than lies. I was just telling the truth, nothing more, nothing less. No exageración. No fantasy. Just a plain sentence, spoken with the quiet pride of an 11-year-old girl who believed in her parents. But the way everyone stared at me, from my classmates to the homeroom teacher, it was like I just claimed I had dinner on the moon. They didn't believe me. Worse, they laughed. The laughter wasn't immediate. It began as a drip. One snicker, then another. And before I could even blink, it spread like wildfire through the room. Every smirk, every whisper, every stifled giggle felt like a blade slicing through the already fragile pride I'd been trying so hard to protect. "Where did your parents say they work again?" Tina asked, her voice so sweet it was poisonous. Her eyebrows arched in mock curiosity, a performance only she could deliver with such cutting flair. I opened my mouth, but Miss Kepler cut in before I could speak. "Diana," she said, her voice tinged with sarcasm, "this classroom is a place for real things, not a stage for your imagination to run wild." And the room erupted. The laughter was louder and now careless, cruel, relentless. That day, I wanted nothing more than to vanish. Just disappear into the floor and drift away from all the eyes trained on me, laughing at me, erasing the truth I had so carefully offered. All I had said those 7 simple words was this: my parents work at NASA. But it didn't matter. The truth wasn't welcome in that room. Not when it came from someone like me. Have you ever told the truth and been treated like a liar? Like just because your truth didn't fit into someone else's narrow world, it couldn't possibly be real? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell my parents that night. I just lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering a question I didn't yet know had an answer waiting for me just days away. If telling the truth means being mocked, should I just stay silent from now on? It was spring of 6th grade. Sunny Valley Elementary, a school nestled in a small town that loved gossip as much as it loved football. Here, a rumor could lap the town twice before breakfast. A single careless sentence could birth an entirely new story by noon. And once that story started, you were no longer in control of it. Our class was small, yet it always felt crowded. Not in numbers, but in expectations. You had to fit a certain mold, dress a certain way, think a certain way, be familiar, not strange, be agreeable, not curious. I didn't fit. I was the girl who asked too many questions, who stared up at the sky during recess instead of playing tag, who read books on astrophysics while others swapped TikTok dances. I didn't try to be different. I just was. But in a town like Sunny Valley, being different was dangerous. Tina was everything I wasn't: popular, pretty, quick with a joke that could bite and charm all at once. She wore sparkly shoes, knew all the right words to say, and made people laugh even when she laughed at others. Especially then. Miss Kepler adored her. She was our homeroom teacher, a stickler for details and decorum. She insisted she fostered creativity. But that encouragement seemed to have borders, and I lived just outside them. If I answered a question wrong, she'd raise an eyebrow. If I answered right, she'd move on with a hum, as if I had been lucky, not thoughtful. And then there were my parents, the only 2 people in the world who made me feel safe being me. My dad, Dr. Tom Carter, was soft-spoken, the kind of man who could silence a room just by existing in it, not through force, but through focus. My mom, Jana, was an engineer who could explain rocket propulsion while flipping pancakes. To me, that was magic. They never bragged. Maybe that's why no one at school knew what they did. I didn't think I needed to prove it. Until that day. It started with what was supposed to be a celebration. Let's share what our parents do for a living. Miss Kepler had said, clapping her hands. Let's learn about each other's families and appreciate the work they do. For once, I was excited. I practiced what I would say in front of the mirror, choosing each word with care. I didn't want to braggy, just wanted to be part of something. For once, I wanted to say something real without being ashamed of it. My parents work at NASA, I said when it was my turn. That's all. 5 seconds later, I was a joke. Tina struck first. Wow, NASA? Do you guys fly to space for dinner? She said, sugar sweet with venom underneath. Another kid chimed in. Why didn't you ride a rocket to school then? And then came the final blow. Miss Kepler. Diana, this classroom is for reality, she said coldly. Let's stay focused on facts. The room burst into laughter again, but I wasn't listening anymore. I couldn't. All I could hear was the sound of my heart collapsing in my chest. That night, I didn't tell my parents. Not because I was ashamed of them, but because I was afraid they'd feel ashamed for me. I didn't want to drag them into the ugliness of that day. I didn't want them to feel the sting I felt. So I stayed quiet. But I didn't know they'd already found out. The days passed, and I faded further into the background. I stopped raising my hand. I stopped looking people in the eyes. I stopped trying. And then came career day. Every student was invited to sign up to have their parents come in and speak. I had originally planned to. I was so proud of what they did. But now I quietly crossed my name off the list. They didn't deserve to be laughed at. They didn't deserve this town. On Friday, the classroom felt like a celebration. Tina wore a new dress and bragged about how her mom ran the fanciest spa in town. The other kids were posting up pictures of their parents on the bulletin board. I kept my eyes on my notebook, pretending to read, pretending not to care. Then came the moment. The door opened, and in walked my dad wearing a black NASA jacket. My mom followed, holding a laptop and a thick binder labeled Artemis Mission Engineering Division. The room went silent. Miss Kepler stood, confused. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "We're Diana's parents," my mom said gently, walking to the front. "I'm lead propulsion systems engineer, and my husband is an autonomous navigation specialist." At NASA, Tina's face drained of color. My dad opened the laptop, projecting a video on the screen. Footage of the NASA control room. Engineers everywhere. My parents among them, working in real time. Then my dad's voice echoed from the speakers. "Final calibration complete. Commencing phase 3 countdown." Miss Kepler didn't move. She stared at the screen, her pen frozen in the air. My mom turned to the class. "We didn't come here to brag," she said. "We came to remind you that just because something sounds unbelievable doesn't mean it isn't real. And that sometimes a child doesn't need to be laughed at for being proud. They just need to be believed." No one said a word. No one could. And for the first time, Tina was silent. When the video ended, the room stayed still. Not awkwardly, but reverently. Miss Kepler stepped forward, fumbled with her notepad, and then said, "That was quite a presentation." But the hollowness in her voice betrayed everything. She knew. Everyone did. And my mom wasn't finished. "We're not here to prove anything," she said, her voice like polished steel. "We're here to say this. Our daughter should never have been doubted for speaking the truth." I turned my head so they wouldn't see me cry. Tina stared at her desk, her hands clenched. The Queen of Mockery had nothing to say. And Tuja sat there quiet, but no longer hidden. That day changed everything. Not because of revenge, but because I didn't have to scream to be heard anymore. The truth had walked in and taken a seat. My parents left quietly after their talk. No dramatic exit. Just a nod. Just grace. But the silence they left behind said more than any words. That afternoon, I walked out of class with my head up. Kids avoided my gaze. Tina stood at the stairwell, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Miss Kepler never met my eyes again. Not that day. Not the next. She went on leave the following week. No one said why. Everyone knew. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Free from having to defend what should never have been questioned. And in the days that followed, I went back to being me. The girl who watched the stars, who read about galaxies, who believed. But this time, I didn't feel alone. Because truth doesn't need applause. It just needs to be said, and to stand firm. Like a rocket, ready to launch.